Okay, hello, welcome to episode 6 of No Hold Barred Pod discussion series. We've got another special guest in this week who I'll let introduce herself in a moment. This is our side theme pod to our normal pod where we just get a guest in and let them talk about whatever they want, really, and we'll just have a chat and see how things go. So I will let India introduce herself. I'm sure lots of you know who she is already, but I'll throw over to India right now.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Don and Sally, for having me on. For those who don't know me, my name's India Willoughby. I'm a broadcaster and journalist, probably best known for being Britain's first trans newsreader in 2017 at a national level. That was for Channel 5. And I was also the first trans loose woman, not in the common sense of the word, for those who don't know, particularly those listening outside the UK. I was not that kind of loose woman. But that's essentially a show on British TV that goes out in the middle of the day. And I guess it's a version of The View, which is very well known in America.
Yeah, true.
So it's the UK version of that. And I've done various other shows as well, you know, Celebrity Big Brother, First Dates, been on BBC Question Time. And essentially, I've been at the forefront of the culture war, you might say.
Yeah,
you smashed
feels like
it.
that. Yeah, I
You
think so.
smashed every glass ceiling there is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Been a
and
hot-
I was a Woman of the Year. I was a Woman of the Year, just Woman of the Year in 2023. That was something
That's
else.
amazing.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah,
But just in a few years, we're going to get into this, obviously, everyone listening.
Yeah.
Just thinking about that, that's literally, 3 years ago? And now it would be impossible.
yeah. A strange
This year.
turn of events, isn't it?
I don't think it's going to last forever.
No,
I hope not.
The trans thing, it will. It's gonna last for-
No.
the anti-trans thing.
The governmental overreach on smashing in minorities.
Yeah, well,
I don't think that's going to last forever.
You're more confident than me.
Well, I'm a disabled woman, so we're kind of, linking
I hope
arms,
you're
aren't we?
right,
Do you know what I
Sal.
mean?
I've got my toes crossed, my fingers crossed,
Yeah.
I'll cross my leg, and I'll cross
Everything.
them all.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway,
Yeah.
this
I
too
was
shall
gonna
pass.
I was going to talk about in a bit about the government bit, but you brought it up, Sal, about Wes Streeting. He seems to have come up a lot in the last couple of weeks, especially since he's been dropped out of being a health secretary as a gay man. But he's not very trans friendly, is he? From what I can tell.
No,
Wes
he's
Streeting.
absolutely
Like
terrible.
anti. Yeah.
Yeah, and because we live in a country, the UK, which is now ranked alongside Russia officially by the Council of Europe as far as trans rights are concerned.
Shocking.
Wes Streeting has played quite a pivotal role in that crash down the rankings. And because we have a media that very rarely covers actual trans news that isn't negative, a lot of people probably don't know that the first decision Wes Streeting took when he was appointed health minister was to actually ban puberty blockers. And since then, when there's been a rollback of gender affirming care, which is all trans people want, the reason we go to the doctor and the hospital is to say, look, I'm trans. I just want you to help me so my body matches. I know who I am. There's no problem. I just need you to kind of help me do that. Well, that's now been thrown out the window, the affirming side. And it's conversion therapy. It's state-sponsored conversion therapy now. So the goal of the NHS, when you go in, is to make you cis, if I'm being blunt about it. They've withdrawn puberty blockers, which prevent a young person going through the puberty they explicitly do not want. And at the same time, they say, oh, well, our policy is do no harm. Well, for a trans person, to be a young person and have the easy option of not changing in a way which is going to make you a target for the rest of your life, that is doing harm. And that is why trans suicides are actually so high, because the bullying is so intense. Um, you become isolated. Um, just life is incredibly difficult. And for Wes Streeting not to understand that, having been or he is a gay guy, is really disappointing. But the long and short of it is, we now live in a country where a Labour government has made being trans a criminal offence. Because for a trans person to live a normal life as the sex that they transition to, you would be breaking the law. You would either end up getting fined in the civil courts for being trans, or if you kissed a cis person and hadn't told them that you were trans on the first meeting, you would actually go to jail now. You would go,
Seriously?
as a woman who's trans, even if you were anatomically female, fully medically transitioned, you would be placed in a men's prison. And that is essentially almost guaranteed you're going to be raped or murdered. And within the prison makeup, they have this thing, it's an American term that they use, but I know that they use it over here. It's called vectoring, which you've probably not heard
No, I
of.
don't know that one.
So, well, what happens with vectoring in prisons is when they get a trans prisoner in the men's estate, a trans woman, they tend to put the trans woman with the most violent male.
Really?
And it's deliberate, and it's seen as a kind of way of appeasing that individual to try and make them more calm and more controllable, because they turn a blind eye to the fact that the violent guy is doing what he wants with the trans person. And that is kind of the value of trans lives now throughout society. It is state-sponsored. It's positively encouraged by the law. And currently we're in a situation where the persecutors of trans people, they're protected. It's enshrined in law now, gender critical, which is a poshed up term for racism against trans people. That is protected. While at the same time, we've seen through all kinds of manipulations, long-standing trans rights that most of the population take for granted stripped away.
Yeah.
So it's a really grim state of affairs.
Yeah. God, that's horrible, like the prison system. I didn't know that at all. That's really bad.
Well, the rape conviction is a total of 2% across the board.
Yeah,
they're imprisoning trans people for this.
That's right. I mean, the only thing you really need to know about trans people, you obviously you don't hear from us anymore. We've kind of vanished in a media sense on mainstream media because there's an unofficial ban in place. But the only real things that you need to know about trans people are that A, there has never been a trans crime wave in any country in the world. Secondly, predators are not frocking up and putting on lipstick to go in a public toilet to attack women, as I'm sure Sal will confirm. It's people you know. It's people you know who do that. And third, there has never been a dominant trans athlete in any sport anywhere around the world. If you get any sporting almanac and you look,
go backwards.
who's won all the championships,
I've got to push back.
Trans people.
I've got to push back on that a little bit because I know you can't tell by looking at me, but my sport's MMA, and there were a few incidents a couple of years ago in America, obviously, because that's where all the madness happens. Where it became problematic. But
was
that's
that the
very,
Fallon Fox one, though?
There was Fallon Fox, and there was some other guy that came out of the army.
Yeah,
but that was it. But I was going to say, sorry, just to go back to your other point, my one line is always, even at a dinner table last year with friends,
Yeah.
of friends.
Hmm.
No rapist has ever been stopped by the sign for a woman's toilet.
Well,
Yeah,
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 Predators
that's
going to
it.
go in
right.
there. They're going to go in there. But it's very, 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 very rare. Very rare.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah,
as you just pointed out, it's usually people that you know or are familiar with.
yeah.
Mhm.
Of course, yeah. And
Mhm.
going back to the Fallon Fox thing, that was actually, again, because you're kind of relying on what's pumped out by the media. Fallon
Yeah, yeah.
Fox did break her opponent's eye socket, the orbital bone. It's the most a common injury, I believe, in that sport. So it's not, obviously, it's a brutal sport where you're trying to punch
Yeah.
Beat the
somebody
shit out of
in
someone.
the
Yeah.
in the face. But yeah, there are no, if I said to you, who is the greatest trans athlete of all
Yeah, yeah.
time, nobody would know any names. I mean, obviously,
Mm.
you've heard of Fallon Fox because
Of that, yeah.
I can't even say the name of the sport, actually. What's it called? Mixed martial arts.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So, it's not as if we're running roughshod in Wimbledon or
No, I know.
Golf
Yeah.
Open or the Olympics.
It's not, well, to be fair, it's not really a conversation, is it? Because it's before I think we'd even booked you on, I was looking up to try and fight somebody on Twitter. And Google correct me if Google's wrong, trans people make up less than 0.3% of the population in this country.
Yeah, that's right. It's around 0.5% of the population.
How is all of this even a problem? It's madness.
It's
to
crazy.
me.
Well,
it's fucking insane.
Yeah. Well, over the last month, Amnesty International have just released some fresh figures, and it shows that over the last 5 years, there was 17,000 negative articles about trans people from just 4 UK newspapers: The Times, The Telegraph, The Sun, and this one might surprise a few people, The Guardian,
Really?
which used to be seen as the bastion of the left. But when you're contending with 17,000 stories in the space of 5 years, that breaks down as 9 stories every single day about 0.5% of the population. Every single one is negative.
Yeah.
Inevitably, it's going to affect public perception of that group because it's intense demonization. And if you compound the fact by actually blocking that group from being visible and having any voice, because discussions on mainstream media about trans, they probably happen, a couple of times a week, but you very rarely see an actual trans. It's usually a group of cis people sat around the table explaining what trans is. And they're
with
they
no
have
life
no
experience
idea.
whatsoever. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's just madness, isn't it? It's that whole tactic of, the right at the moment. They have the control of the media, so they can demonize a tiny group of people, see Muslims, see disabled people, see trans people, and Nigel Farage, etc., can control the narrative, and then therefore, as you say, they're frozen out and also attacked at the same time. It's such a load of bullshit. I really despise our media.
There's a wasp
completely.
under my table.
So, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, no, I was just saying about Nigel Farage. He's so skilled at weaponizing this shit, isn't he? And making tiny minority groups as like this big scary beast, which is obviously just such a load of nonsense, isn't it? So, also now Sikh people that he's decided last week that they're being targeted after the Henry Novak thing.
Yeah, it's really grim. I think people just need to start calling him out for what he actually...
But it's the same thing. 5 people are fatally stabbed every week. They've picked one case.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. But at the end of the day, he is a Nazi. We have 40 people from his school days that are all telling the same story about the things that he said about Jewish people, hissing like a gas chamber, bullying, a particular boy. And it's the same story throughout. He is a Nazi, and the Reform Party are essentially the National Front and the BNP in to use a trans analogy, a different dress. That's all they are really. And it is absolutely terrifying. I know you two must feel the same way when you look at how all of these revelations about his past, or even his present, when he's taken his £5 million bung, and his excuses are terrible. You know, they just don't stand up. But all of it still bounces off him. It has no impact whatsoever on his supporters. As long as he's pledging to get at brown people and trans people and other people, you know, what he would call shirkers, people on benefits. As long as he is promising to do that, there is a big swathe of the UK population who find that really attractive.
I know. Yeah, it's very
baffling to me. What is it about this pathological liar that you find so trustworthy? What the fuck?
Crazy.
Well, I wrote a big whole thing about racism a couple of weeks ago, and I still think it's about a 25% sort of wedge of the population that have always held that kind of far right-wing views. But he's made it acceptable to be like that in public again, which is, you know, so sad. Growing up in the 80s, you know, you saw the crap from then, and then we thought going through the 90s and the 2000s, actually we were progressing as a society. But as you were talking about a minute ago, from your perspective, but just with everything, it's just everything's being regressed by these people on the right.
And really quickly. And I think it's important to say, you know, that the role that big media influencers, institutions rather, have played in essentially creating Nigel Farage and Reform. Because without the platform that they are given, they would still be on the fringe. So you look at the BBC, again, I'm sorry, but the BBC are
occupied,
very much guilty in my book as far as Farage is concerned. The amount of times that he and his party get platformed, considering they have, I think they have 9 MPs now. And they've created a monster.
They have. They really have.
Well, they have, but their monster's only going to have breath in its body whilst Trump's living.
Yeah.
Hopefully, but
I hope so.
I don't know.
I mean, and no doubt they'll try once he's expired, but it's the gravitas of his. This is how humans baffle me, India. Sorry, just the collective stupidity. But it's all perception, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's got this like air of fear because of how people perceive him. But the reality is, as he's proving with the World Cup now, he's running the World Cup like it's one of his businesses.
Oh yeah.
Literally, you could lay the frameworks on top of each other. He's priced everyone out because he wants it to be exclusive for him and his mates. And it's completely fucked it. No one can go.
Right. Yeah, like I love football. I'm a massive addict of football, but it just doesn't excite me this time round.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, really flat about it.
Yeah. I'm Scottish. Not that I sound it anymore, but I was born and brought up in Scotland, and this is a big deal for Scotland to get to the World Cup. But even that's like,
of course.
It's the whole thing's been have like this dampener put on it.
Got there.
Yes, we did. Thank you.
Sorry for them now.
First time in nearly 20 years, I think.
But notwithstanding, every bastard should be boycotting it. It's nonsense.
Yeah, totally. Well, the good thing is, I mean, I think people in the real world are boycotting it. You know, all the hoteliers near the stadiums are saying they're empty.
Yeah,
nobody's
the bookings
seen
are way down.
As you've just mentioned, Sal, they haven't been able to sell the tickets because a lot of the games are like £1,000 and £2,000 for a ticket in a country that doesn't even love football or soccer, as they call it. So it is going to be a disaster. And I think in the TV audience realm as well, considering that, you know, they're in the US and obviously we're in the UK, but it's predominantly European teams that are going to be in the final stages. The time difference means that all of these games are going to be screened at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, there's some big hiccups. Did you see this afternoon that a Somalian referee who was awarded the best referee in Africa has been denied entry this afternoon? He's not allowed to go. He's a FIFA registered World Cup referee, and Trump's turned him away.
It's insane.
Most of the footballers are being denied visas.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Well,
the
the Iran team, I
Iran,
heard
yeah.
yesterday, a
Yeah.
lot of the Iran backroom staff,
Yeah.
such as the physios and the coaches, etc., they've been denied admittance as well. It's just a terrible idea
It's
with
mental.
everything that's going on with ICE as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And you have all of these countries, many of them that have, brown and black people going to watch football. I'm sorry, ICE is just going to have a field day.
I know, it's sad,
Aren't
isn't it?
they?
I heard
I
them
was listening.
talking. Oh,
Sorry, I know. I was just going to say about the Iranian team. The Iranian team are being allowed to play, but they're being told that they're only allowed in America for the game, and then they have to go north to Canada or south to Mexico when they're not playing. They have to get out of the country between games. That's absolutely yeah.
So they don't finish a match. They don't go to the hotel, have a massage, and
Mexico or Canada. That's what I read yesterday in the Atlanta Athletic. Sorry.
it's
so
ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
it's crazy,
well,
isn't it?
it's going to be accurate if it's in the Athletic.
I think so.
just-
Yeah,
Yeah,
the weakness
exactly.
Of men.
So,
Sorry, that I'm going to just say
crazy.
no, you can't.
Crazy.
I can't. I just can't. It's
Yeah.
I
so
know.
insane. They're going to write about these times for hundreds and hundreds of years after we're dead.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
that
this is
fucked up.
Trump's legacy is going to be the Epstein files, a war in Iran for no reason, and the worst World Cup in history, probably. I mean, that's
And being a
you know.
massive rapist.
well, yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So,
Can we just pedal back? I wanted to ask you before, only because we've done a little bit of digging about him, and obviously he's a shithead. But where do Stonewall stand on the trans issue?
right,
And
okay.
is that why Wes Streeting is why Wes Streeting?
Stonewall have been absolutely dreadful on this topic.
Thought
if
it
I'm
might be
honest.
the same thing.
And, I mean, this is my personal view. Other people within LGBT might have a different opinion. But this all kind of started around 2017. That's when trans people were kind of just starting to get visibility, both on this side of the Atlantic and in America. And the chief executive officer of Stonewall at the time had just been appointed, and it was a woman called Ruth Hunt. And she came out, and just the kind of language she was using, it wasn't clear. She's not a trans person. She's a lesbian. And although a lot of people think that LGBT people all know everything about each other, we are a family, but each of those letters obviously has little differences. So you're not necessarily an expert. For instance, I wouldn't know what it's like to be a gay guy or, a lesbian. I just don't know because that's not who I am. And her choice of language, if I'm being generous, I would say it was naive in that she was trying to bring all kinds of people who dressed as women, which has a really punky way of saying it, under one umbrella. And the problem you have with doing that is, and this was Stonewall's idea, you're encompassing drag queens who clearly are not trans. And I would say that 99.9% recurring would say we're definitely not trans. She pulled in cross-dressers, which I'll make the point here. There is absolutely nothing wrong, by the way, with being a cross-dresser. It's not, a dangerous thing or anything. If that's what you want to do.
But it's not the same thing either.
But again, it's not transitioning. So she created this thing, which was a complete gift to the right to exploit.
Yeah, right.
Now, so that was Ruth Hunt. So it was a bad start when she did that. And then on top of that, you obviously had the right, which started in America at something called the Voters' Values Conference. So that was in 2017 as well. It was the year that gay people got all their rights in America, gay marriage, etc. And the Voters' Value Conference is a massive jamboree of all the religious right organizations.
Right.
This particular year, Donald Trump was there. And the keynote speaker stood up and said, look, we've lost the fight against gay rights. save your breath. Don't bother attacking them anymore. They're too accepted. You need to go home and you need to start attacking the T. That is the weak link in the chain. And if you separate the T and cause infighting,
really,
then you can get at the gay people. And immediately after that, in 2017, you saw this explosion of, I'm doing this in speech marks for those not watching the pictures, explosion of women's rights organizations. But when you look at the website, there's nothing about abortion or misogyny or the gender pay. None of that. It's just trans hate. So getting back to Stonewall, in 2017, all of these media attacks suddenly started happening on what historically had been a very kind of benign charity. It was just an LGBT charity, really. It wasn't doing anything controversial. And the BBC, which is riddled with gender criticals, they did a 5-part hit piece. I'm going to call it a hit piece. I think it's officially called a podcast, but it was actually a hit piece by Stephen Nolan, a friend of Graham Linehan, who's somebody is a name some of you might know. So if you realize that this person is a friend of Graham Linehan, you can imagine the kind of 5-piece podcast he made on Stonewall.
Like the opposite of a friend of Judy.
And because the times that we're living in, and this goes back to Trump as well, which unfortunately Trump infects the whole world. The whole world stopped doing diversity, inclusion, equality. And Stonewall's lifeblood is actually running those courses around big firms. That's how they get their money. The government grants them a little bit of money. And then they earn their bread and butter, if you like, by doing training things around the country. Okay. But all that suddenly stopped, so that revenue tap was turned off. And then the government itself, the Tories before what we have now, I'll call them Tories 1 because we have Tories 2 now, really. So Tories 1 turned off the government funding for Stonewall. Yeah. And then obviously Labour have continued that as well. So we've ended up in a situation where what was the best known LGBT charity in the UK has been systematically and in a very coordinated way being destroyed. So now I would describe Stonewall a bit like, and this is one for the oldies, if you've ever seen the film Cool Hand Luke, starring Paul Newman.
It's going back a bit.
It's a prison film, and essentially Paul Newman plays this prisoner called Luke who gets sent to prison, but he keeps escaping because he's got this fighting spirit in him. But ultimately, the guards in the prison, they keep making him dig a hole and then fill it in and dig a hole and fill it in the baking sun. And eventually, Paul Newman cracks and he falls to his knees and he says, "Please stop, boss. Please stop. I'll do whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want." And that is essentially what's happened to Stonewall.
That's what Stonewall is.
Because they just need to survive and they're not thinking about anything else anymore, you will not get Stonewall standing up for trans people. You will not get Stonewall speaking out about the rollback of rights, the stripping of legal recognition, the ban on trans healthcare. They are staying quiet because they've been beaten so harshly, whipped into submission that they're not going to say anything. So I can see a situation which, again, is really grim looking at the future. I think Stonewall are essentially, they're going to become like Ratner's Jewelers. They're going to go under. But that means that we're left with the LGB Alliance, which is essentially a straight organization set up specifically as a Trojan horse to hunt trans people. But they're going to be projected in this unreal world that we live in to the public as the premier gay organization, the LGBT organization.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've heard a lot of their representatives on LBC quite often, the LGB Alliance, and it's really disappointing whenever I hear one of their presenters announce one of those as a guest. Yeah.
Well, they were in a court case a few years ago, and they had to swear on oath, and they were asked on how many lesbians make up your supporters, and they had to admit on oath that it was 7%.
Was that
which,
it?
Which, if you're setting yourself up as the LGBT alliance, they also oppose a ban on conversion therapy. They are against gay marriage, and they've previously
the LGBT alliance.
Yeah,
and it's against gay marriage.
They're a bunch of crazies. They're horrible.
Yeah. They've previously compared bisexuality to bestiality, and during can you remember that thing, the monkeypox scare of a couple of years back? At the time, they came out. Bear in mind, this is supposed to be, a gay rights organization.
Yeah.
They called on for all gay clubs and bars and venues to be shut. The insinuation being that gay people were the spreaders.
Transmitting it, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we're dirty. Now, what kind of, in what world does a gay rights organization do that? They're just a front, but that has been set up specifically.
They're like a think tank.
To hunt. Well, what they do, I'll give you another example. So they're very clever, the right, in how they call themselves and label up their fronts. So they never actually say like, oh, anti-abortion this or whatever. They call themselves pro-life or whatever. And I always think it's a bit like saying, call yourself Save the Whale. And obviously everybody would think, oh, great, Save the Whale. I'm in for that. And then you read through everything, and then you get to the small print, and the small print says, we're going to achieve this by bombing Japan and killing all the Japanese people because they're the biggest whale hunters. But that's like buried in the small print somewhere. And that's the LGB Alliance.
Fair. That's a brilliant analogy. I love that. Yeah, I know. I know a bit about them. I have read a bit about them, and they are just a grim bunch from what I can tell. They're horrible. Yeah. Sorry, Sal, carry on.
Can I just ask, because I'm very naive, what's the argument of the gay people who are busy pulling up the ladder? What's their beef?
Well, it's important to say that although they're called the LGB Alliance, they're not actually gay people in that,
for the most part,
organization. There might be one or two, but invariably the type of people you get in the LGB Alliance, most of the supporters are straight. They're obviously sort of right-wing, socially conservative, and there are lots of religious people involved with them as well. And there's a strange dynamic that goes on. And I would actually include Wes Streeting in this, because Wes Streeting, the former health minister now, who we were talking about previously, I mean, he's an evangelical Christian, but he's also gay. And he's spoken about the fact that he found it very uncomfortable when he realized he was gay. It was a conflict, and he went to talk to people. And I'm presuming that was to kind of tentative steps towards conversion therapy. But then they seem to go through some rationalizing in their own head, and they come up with a justification to say, well, okay, it's okay for me to be gay because I'm a good Christian, and I'm going to make up for it by persecuting the trans people.
Attacking others,
so that will balance this. I know I've done bad. Sorry, God. But I'm going to weigh the other side down, get the trans people and pull it even. I'll make it up to you. And that seems to be the conversation that goes on. But there are a lot of those kind of gay people within the LGBT Alliance. YouGov actually did a poll a couple of years ago, and it asked what we might term as the gay family, LGB. What do you describe yourself as? Are you LGBT, which is obviously trans inclusive, or are you LGB, which is the exclusionary one? And the YouGov poll showed only 3% of the gay family identified as LGB. So again, you have, because we're living in this crazy world at the moment, you have this organization that's populated by mainly straight people called the LGBT Alliance that is projected onto the public as this voice of the gay community. Honestly, they couldn't fill a small pub in Grimsby
That's
with free beer on offer.
Yeah.
They really couldn't. If you look at the photos of their events online, it's 5 or 6 people and maybe a dog and a bit of string. That's it.
Yeah.
That's so insane.
It's very sad that they're being allowed to be pushed to the
But
front.
it all comes back, all of these things, and I'm not just talking about trans people as well. This applies to, asylum seekers. It applies to disabled people as well. There is like a massive distortion of news at the moment. And if you're controlling the levers of that, what you amplify, just like in a sound studio, more guitar, let's just like take the drums out of the complete. If you're doing all that, you can create the impression that one argument is really popular and another argument, there's no support for it. When actually, in the real world, it's the complete opposite.
Well, they're trying to manifest what they want, aren't they? That's what it is.
There's an absolutely brilliant example of, brilliant's a strange way to phrase it, but example of that that's come out today and yesterday. There's this guy, Michael Foran, who's the lecturer, gay Christian guy, right?
Correct.
He's one of those, and very much in the Wes Streeting mold. But like the protest that has gone wildly viral across the internet is like 2 people turned up to protest one of his lectures, which was attended by about 3 others. So it's tiny, minuscule framing of like nothing actually happened is now in the Telegraph and across right-wing Twitter has gone completely crazy. It's just bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah. That's absolutely right. I mean, Michael Foran, he's, I was going to say with the greatest respect. Why am I going to say that?
You don't need
to. He's being billed as this, renowned academic. Look, he's a young guy who is gay, who is, I believe he's a devout Catholic, and he believes that not in democracy as such. He believes that essentially society should be structured in line with Catholic teachings. And as you very eloquently described there, he arranged to hold a lecture where he was going to be spouting his normal anti-trans guff. I think 2 or 3 people maybe turned up on his side that were interested in what he wanted to think. And I think a kind of similar number of trans people opposing it. It was literally 3 or 4 people
that
turned up. Yeah. All the photos show essentially an empty hall. But because they are plugged into mainstream media, the Telegraph, the Guardian, the Daily Mail, the BBC, this now blows up into a massive story about free speech. It'll be debated on Newsnight. It'll be talked about on BBC Radio 4. And it's literally with eight human beings in this big
in a room. Yeah,
hall.
I know.
It's insane.
Excuse me. Yeah, I saw one of our lovely Twitter friends, Gil King, had posted about it this morning, and I just saw that she.
Gil's really good.
Oh, she's awesome. Yeah, we like Gil a lot. But it's just I don't know. We talk about the media an awful lot. Like you know better than us, much better than how things work, but it feels like. Well, from our perspective, things are being so heavily weighted now that it's almost impossible to get left-wing views, trans views, disabled minority views into the media. It's really shocking how things are.
No, I think that's a fair analysis of what's going on. And we haven't even talked, about Israel and Palestine.
Well, that as well.
Which I think, if you're looking for something to really illustrate, the difference in how news can be manipulated in a really kind of subtle way that if you're not paying attention, you don't necessarily notice. So, Palestinian deaths, for instance, are always a number. Whereas an Israeli death, you will get a name.
Yeah.
You might find out, that they have relatives in the UK, or so one side is humanized, and another
exactly
isn't. And the use of, if Palestine, it causes an explosion in Israel, it's like an atrocity or a massacre or something like that. And if Israel do something, it's just a death. There have been so many deaths in Palestine. Those emotive words aren't used in the same way for each side. And from my own perspective, obviously, we have people who are on the side of anti-abortionists and traditional wife advocates who are being called women's rights campaigners.
Yes, bizarre.
While all trans people, regardless of who you are, is a trans rights activist. So you have that thing between
By dint of being
campaigner.
alive.
When you're a campaigner, you're Emily
flag waver.
Pankhurst.
Yeah.
You're a good person. But an activist, obviously you're scurrying around
trying
doing
to blow
no
up
good.
Israeli
Blow
weapons
up like
factories.
the IRA or something.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't know. I call myself an activist.
Yeah.
We get things done.
But you can choose that for yourself. But you can choose that for yourself. I know what you're saying, India. So it's when it's labelled with a negative connotation, like without your choice, then it's like
there's a slight difference. I mean, I don't have a necessarily a problem with activists because I would say Greta Thunberg is an activist and she's fantastic what she does. But it's a different dynamic at play when you're doing the news, because if you're presenting a story, an event to the general public who are not necessarily plugged into that particular topic, that, we're all kind of into politics and what's going on in the world. But if you're not like that, and that is the bulk of people, they're not like that. And you continually say, well, look, this is a bunch of campaigners and this is a bunch of activists. Activists has more of an aggressiveness.
It feels more negative,
And it's more underhand. Whereas if you're a campaigner, you're kind of doing it by the book and you're following rules and there's an etiquette involved. I'm not saying that's that the reality in terms of, the real world, but in a news sense. I've worked in news. I know how people choose the vocabulary. It's a very, very subtle difference. Yeah.
All I was going to say was the thing is we're living in this mad culture war where words have taken on alternative meanings, it turns out.
True.
And the last person we had on to chat last week, to Laura, is technically criminalised as a potential terrorist because she held a cardboard sign saying stop genocide.
She's been charged. Right? She's been charged under the Terrorism Act. She's got a trial coming up under the Terrorism Act because she held a Palestinian Action piece of paper up.
Yeah. It's just mind-boggling.
It is. It's crazy.
Really, it's dystopian. It's surreal. It's like a Christopher Nolan sci-fi movie.
It is.
What is going on at the moment?
I know.
Yeah, it's a chicken and egg for me. Did the mad people come first, or did they learn it from off of the film? Will we ever know?
Probably not.
You went off on a little travelling thing not long ago, didn't you, India? I saw on Twitter. Did you find
it? Yeah.
Was that Europe and stuff much more relaxed in general, you found?
Completely.
That's what I got from your posts and stuff.
Yeah, I just thought, do you know what? I need a break. Because like I say, I've been at the forefront of the culture war
absolutely.
Since it kicked off, really. And I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to go around Europe and see what it's like. So I took 6 weeks out and I had no plan as such. You can buy a train ticket for 400 quid, which basically gives you unlimited travel for a month.
Which would get you from London to Newcastle probably at the moment.
Well, the only I took exactly for 400 quid. You bang on there. So I took a flight. I'd worked it out to the point of where I thought, well, where am I going to start so I can get the most countries in?
Yeah.
And of all places, I picked Bratislava.
Right.
In Slovenia.
Yeah.
And that was good. And then I went to Vienna, and then up into Germany, then into France, and then made my way up to Holland, came back. And it's just so much better over there. Nobody's bothered.
That's it.
Really.
Yeah.
It's more relaxed, getting onto a completely different topic. Even small things such as, and I don't think you notice when you're in the UK all the time, you don't know these gradual changes that are taking place. When I went in the supermarket, all the produce areas
It's lovely and fresh, isn't it?
were crammed.
Yeah.
And the fruit and the veg, it was shiny and big and polished and what have you.
Yeah.
And then you get back and you go here, in Morrison's
1982
or
again.
an Aldi,
Yeah.
and it's all kind of like duller fruit,
grey.
small fruit. Yeah, you can tell it's not the best. And I don't blame them, because obviously I think we would end up doing the same. If they would, when they get their crop in, they're saying, well, look, we're the EU. It's our crop. We get first dibs.
Yeah, first
we
dibs.
get to take this
So
stuff,
it works.
and then this is what's left, and they're not in the EU.
You can have that.
So you can have that.
I know.
So, I mean, that's, some people might say that's like quite a petty, shallow thing. But there are so many things
Liz
like
Webster
that.
would not.
Yeah.
But
True.
I think it's really cost us in many different kinds of ways, not just financially, leaving Europe. And again, that is all down to media manipulation, the Brexit vote, big, powerful entities interfering in our politics, and then they're manipulating decisions now that actually overtake governments. They're
totally
above the law, really. People like Elon Musk, he writes reality now, because
for sure.
the truth doesn't count. His platform positively rewards you in money and in engagement if you go on and you tell conspiracy theories, you push out hate. Your meter is going ding, 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 because the algorithm is engineered and calibrated to say, oh, this is a great account. Let's promote this. Whereas regular people who are just standing up for themselves or speaking the truth, the algorithm doesn't want that, because it doesn't drive traffic.
Exactly. I know.
So it was a breath of fresh air, Europe. And, if I can get some money together, certainly if Farage gets in, I want to flee. I'll be honest about that. I definitely want to flee until he's gone, at least.
Yeah. I used to live in Portugal. We lived in Portugal for about 6 years, and we came back after Brexit happened and for various reasons, and put my son in school here. But we would go back in a heartbeat, but it's very difficult now to get back there.
Very difficult.
Because we were living there and doing work there and here, which is now impossible almost. So it's so tricky. But I'm the same. We go to Portugal every year, and it's just, there's just a weight suddenly drops from your shoulders. You just think,
that's right. Because now, if you're, a UK citizen, you can stay in the Eurozone. I think it's 90 days.
Yeah, 90 days.
And then that's it. You've got to get out. So
I know.
It's
such
difficult.
Self-harm.
It is all down to our lovely pal Nigel Farage and his mates.
Well, it's not. It's down to a press agreeing to lie about everything for cash.
Yeah, but controlled by Farage and Bannon, right? They were the ones.
That referendum was still illegal.
Yeah. Well, it's still. Liz was telling us about that, wasn't it? She's got some stuff in still with that in the courts, I believe.
No, it's not Liz. It was
Gina
Caroline
Miller.
Lucas and two other people. I can't remember if it was Gina. It was Caroline
Miller.
Lucas and two other people.
Are
challenging the legalities of the referendum because it was so fucking illegal.
Yeah. Right. Listen,
I question the veracity of university educations at this point. Oh, well, come on. I mean, Liz fucking Truss went to bastard Oxford.
She did. But she came out as a Liberal Democrat and then money talks, doesn't it? And she went.
No, she went in as a Liberal Democrat. She did not come out as well.
Maybe,
well, I
true.
mean, technically maybe, but
Yeah.
Anyway, do you know what I'm saying? Though, I mean, sorry, I'm upset. Dr. George Woodward, as he's become this week, who's the head of my council now, India, for reform, has come out and doing what he tried to do with the cancelled Refugee Week, claiming it was for money purposes. Turns out the money was ring-fenced, nothing to do with them, so it's actually just racist spite.
Yeah.
They're doing they've just tried to do exactly the same thing with Pride. That was on Saturday, so that's a bit fucking weird. And they also don't pay for that either. And we had a great time.
What's your local council?
St Helens.
St Helens, yeah. They've gone reform.
Yeah, but we did the Pride March, and we told them, we shouted and had great fun.
Up here, I live next door to Gateshead. And they went reform as well, and they've just done the same.
Yeah, I read that.
Scrapped all the Pride stuff. But at the same time, they're introducing, singing "Onward, Christian Soldiers" and "God Save the Queen" before everyone.
Prayers.
The thing is, they should actually just call themselves the 1950s.
Yeah, exactly.
Party, because that's what they want to bring back.
It's what they're desperate for, isn't it? I know.
Trans people exist in a real. Can somebody prove the existence of God, please? Or fuck off.
Exactly.
Well,
Jesus Christ. Reality deniers.
My son came home from school today. He's 12, right? And they had a Pride assembly today. And he said within his school, they reckoned they'd done a survey. There's about 500 kids. It's not a big school, but 25% are LGBTQ within his school. In his year 7, he's got 2 trans kids, but they are all very accepting. With it, there's always a couple of idiots, obviously.
Yeah.
But he talks so passionately about it and how he hates it when people are mean to them. So at 12 years old, so there is some hope. I think there is. The generation underneath, or 2 years,
the
2 generations down. Yeah, I think they're gonna. Yeah.
No, I think that's true.
I hope
kids have never been the problem. It's the parents.
Well, that's
the parents
true.
Are teaching them.
Yeah.
What is and isn't okay, and who's a goodie and who's a baddie, and who to stay away from. And that's the sadness of it all. And I don't know, maybe I'm just down at the moment, but I'm just so disappointed in the British public when, to me, and I think to most sane people, it's stark, staringly obvious that reform and restore, the other R party, these are all horrible, thuggish people. And it's all about hate and division and nastiness. They're not bright.
No.
I know that some people don't like talking about
that. It's factual and statistically proven.
Yeah. And I think that's proven they have done studies that, people who are not that bright are more attracted to the right because the right, essentially, they don't tackle complex problems. There's nothing about nuance. It's all simplified into a yes/no
slogans
question. Do you like that? Do you like this?
There's no nuance.
Yes, no, yes, no. Yeah. And as we all know, life isn't like that. Life has difficult questions, especially when you're running a government or a council.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, listen.
It's grim, isn't it?
I'm really aware of the time because we're going to have to sort of wrap up in a minute because we've got to go and do our next one. I've got to go to Devon at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning as well, so I haven't even packed a suitcase yet. So
and if you knew how many toiletries Don took away with him, honest to God, you've never seen anything like her.
Sal and I took a trip to Clacton earlier in the year. Yeah.
No, it's more like your cardboard box when you went to Portugal last year. You had a cardboard box of hair wax and smellies, and
wow.
I'm like, wow, lad.
Why not?
That's why you're so pretty, innit?
Oh yeah,
yes.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Very stylish.
Listen, thanks so much, India, for coming. And
it's been a pleasure.
It's been an absolute joy to speak to you.
I've loved it. I feel like giving you a hug and breaking down crying at the same time.
It's
so hard.
I know. Yeah, no, it's absolutely
Oh.
amazing to chat to you, and you know, welcome back anytime, and
Right.
we'd love to have you
Thank you
back
so
again.
much for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
And I'll back with you on Twitter at some point soon. And
Yes.
yeah. So
okay. Keep up the good fight.
You
Both
too.
of you.
Thank you.
I love what you're both doing. And we've just got to keep going.
Yes. Keep the fight.
And we've got to fight to the best of our abilities in our own way as much as we can.
As we possibly
Solidarity.
can. Absolutely.
Thank you, comrades.
Right.
That's one name I won't use because I do think it's a little bit, you know. But anyway.
Right. With that, I'm going to wrap it up and say, right, bye. Thanks everyone for listening and watching, and we shall see you all very soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers.